I'm sure Daryl Hall and John Oates are perfectly good musicians individually, but sometimes they just don't cut it. Sometimes you need Hall and Oates. And sometimes in cocktails you need two base spirits when one isn't gonna do the job. I'm Jason O'Brien, lead mixologist at Addison and Robb Report's resident cocktail columnist, and this is how you make the Cobra Clutch. So most of the time, when you're making a cocktail, you have a spirit that's the base of the cocktail. So a margarita base is tequila, a lemon drops base is vodka. But sometimes we use more than one spirit to make up the base of the cocktail. And you see some of this in the classics, not a lot, but some. In a Vieux Carré, it's cognac and rye. Between the sheets, it's rum and brandy. The fog cutter is rum, brandy, and gin. Now the legendary bar, Death & Co. opened in New York around 2007. And the bartenders there started experimenting extensively with split-based cocktails and really testing the limits of how far this process could go. The reason people hadn't done much splitting bases before is that when you don't do it right, it kind of muddies up the experience, but when you nail it, it's magic. The Cobra Clutch is one of those drinks where splitting the base really works. So, let's make one. The Cobra Clutch is from 2013 from a bartender named Christian Siglin in San Diego. He was working at the time at a place called Bankers Hill Bar and Grill, which had kind of a older clientele. It's the kind of place where the dinner rush starts at 5:15. And they wanted a mezcal cocktail on the menu, but with an older clientele who wasn't used to mezcal, they wanted to tame its aggressiveness a little bit, and so he tempered it with tequila and came up with the Cobra Clutch. So we start with mezcal. So this is the Del Maguey Vida Puebla. Honestly, mezcal is a zoo. There's so many different kinds and they taste so different from one another. They'll generally all be smoky, but what you want here is something that has that smoke, has that personality, but just isn't so expensive that you don't want to mix with it. And for this drink, we just want a hint of the mezcal. So instead of a full 2 ounces, which would be the full base, we're just doing a ½ ounce. To mitigate that smoke, but to still have an agave forward cocktail, you want to blend it with tequila. So I'm going to grab Don Fulano Blanco, which is a great additive-free Blanco tequila. Any additive-free Blanco is gonna be great. What you want out of the Blanco tequila here is to be redolent of roasted agave. So Lalo is great. Fortaleza, if you can find it, is fantastic. Cimarron is one of my favorite blending tequilas, but Don Fulano out of a Tequilania distillery is phenomenal. And I'm gonna make up the base of the drink with the remainder 1.5 ounces of tequila. Next, the recipe calls for a very small touch of absinthe. So absinthe, the intense, herbaceous spirit. We are using this in very small doses, just a teaspoon, or I'm gonna use a bar spoon in this case. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna add an herbaceous blast and a tiny hint of anise to the flavor. And that forms our base spirit. So next, we're gonna need a little bit of lime juice. And this recipe calls for a ½ ounce of lime juice. Now the original recipe calls for a cane syrup. This is fairly annoying to procure. It's kind of an esoteric product. Personally, I like using just a demerara syrup. So this is a 1-to-1 sugar syrup that is made with demerara sugar, or like sugar in the raw, kind of a less refined sugar. And we are matching the lime with just a ½ ounce of this. Demerara sugar is less refined, so it comes with deeper molasses notes, which really helps anchor the pineapple juice, which is what's gonna come next. And finally, to make it extra tropical and refreshing, this was invented in San Diego after all, we're gonna grab pineapple juice. Now, I always say, especially in case of juices, fresh is better. With limes, I insist on it. If you only have canned pineapple juice, it's okay, you can still make this drink, but fresh is gonna have a lot more vibrancy. It'll feel a lot more alive. And we're gonna grab 1 ounce of pineapple juice. This drink was designed to be on crushed ice to make it extra refreshing, so you don't need to shake forever, but what you need to do is just add some crushed ice to the tin and give it what we call a quick whip shake, just to breathe some air into it and integrate the ingredients, so probably 5 seconds. You pour the ingredients. You don't need to strain. Just pour the entire thing into your glass. Then you add more crushed ice to fill the glass. And garnish with a mint sprig. You take a couple crowns of mint. I like to kind of overdo it when I can. And just have a forest of mint on the top of the drink. So you take the stems like so. I like to kind of twist a few together to make it one cohesive unit. And we want them to be extra aromatic, so we give it a quick bruise. And then you tuck it into the drink like so. And if you are gonna use a straw, put it right next to that mint you just bruised. So that way, when someone picks it up, before they even take a sip, they just get this huge bouquet of mint. And this is the Cobra Clutch. Let's see how we did. The mint is coming up to join you. The absinthe is playing a role there, is kind of joining forces with the mint to make it all green tinged and refreshing. The beauty of this drink is that it takes these huge flavors like absinthe, like mezcal, and defangs them. It gets them to comb their hair and stand in line. So I'm following this recipe as it was originally made. I've tried it both ways. I've tried it all tequila, I've tried it all mezcal, and neither are better than this. You can do 1 ounce each if you want to dial up that smoke a little, but it needs some tequila in there. If you make it with all mezcal, not only will it be too heavy and too intense, but the mezcal will overwhelm everything else. The beauty of this drink is its perfect balance. And that's why the Cobra Clutch is the best tequila drink you've never heard of. For more cocktail recipes, visit us at robbreport.com.